where one of the known fact was, or at least one of the rumors were that Malkovich said that you will never get a CAA star in your film, though if I understand, these were CAA stars who eventually played the lead roles in this film. If you could tell a little bit about it, how much is true about those rumors, and how did that public fight affect the casting and the outcome of the movie?
I'm not sure it did. I mean, Michael was one of their biggest stars.
But he was a CAA star, right?
CAA, yeah. I don't think Sharon was at CAA anymore, but at the time. But I don't think it really did. I mean, interestingly, one of the things that may have happened is that when the script was sold, was taken out, is that a lot of people, I think, in Hollywood felt that I was very much in the right going after Ovitz, and the Ovitz had such a sort of a stronghold on Hollywood that I was probably the first person who called him on it, but others had experienced it, and some of them, like the producer Bernie Brillstein, had heard the same words, you know, and people in the parenthetical sort of feel of Hollywood knew that, right? So when shortly after the Ovitz thing blew up, and then like 10 days later, Music Box had its Hollywood premiere at the Writers Guild Auditorium with Jessica Lange and everybody. There was a full crowd. I mean, it was packed. And to my absolute shock, when the credits came on, I got a near standing ovation. That had never happened to me before. And even though my ego is big, I knew it didn't just happen because of that. And I think it was the way of a lot of people in the industry showing their feelings about Ovitz. And then when the script, excuse me, went out about 6 months after that and turned into such a phenomenon, there was a theory that part of that was because a lot of people in town wanted to show to Ovitz, you can't do this, right? And I think that's possible.
For a long time, I had an article in my office, which was your open letter to Malkovich.
Oh, that's great.
I had it there for a long time. If I may follow up with a question regarding the writing process and the film. This is one of your films which have really strong character intros, as well visually, as well as from the dramatic point of view. I was wondering, was it all in the screenplay? Because it has so strong visuals also, how your characters are introduced as the lead characters. This is the Hitchcockian thing, that you tell the audience visually and dramatically that now we are meeting one of the leads. And my question is, was it a combination between Paul Verhoeven and you, or was it already in the screenplay? Did you see it that way?
All the great visual stuff was mine. Though the stuff that didn't work was Verhoeven's, the greatest.
Okay.
No, you know, and I guess I do visuals sometimes. I guess often for a screenwriter, that it goes part of my vision, with part of my vision. But Verhoeven is has a truly explosive visual style, and to the point where, like, kidded before about the screenplay and the sketching, but he does that a lot in everything. And I would say that most of the visual pyrotechnics were Paul's. The locations were mine in terms of Stinson Beach House and all of that kind of stuff, and they wound up doing that. But in terms of the actual jolting visual thing, I suspect that was mostly Paul's.
Actually, I have seen storyboards. I'm here. I've seen the storyboards of Paul, of the sex scenes. These drawings were based on your specific description in the script, or it was his vision?
It's a combination of the storyboards. The script comes first, then the director, then the storyboard. The director essentially picks out whatever visuals he wants out of the script and then provides his own visuals. You know, so. And we're also forgetting the importance of an involved and creative producer. And then Andy does that, and some of the others that I've worked with do that as well. Their vision is on the material. Now, that's getting more and more rare in Hollywood, because now agents and managers and entourages and hangers-on can all call themselves producers, you know. But if you've worked with a really good one, you know the difference, as opposed to working with a lot of the turkeys who aren't even on the set these days. When Irvin Winkler is a great producer in my mind, and I did 2 movies with him. One morning when we were shooting Betrayed, we were shooting it in Calgary in the summer, and it was like 98 degrees, and they were indoors, and he collapsed like at 5:30 in the afternoon, and I'd be taken to the hospital. And I said, "What happened?" And he said, "Well, I went to the set, and I was there from 8:30 in the morning on, and it was really just got too hot." And I said, "Well, why did you go to the set for all that time?" He said, "Well, I have to go to the set, because if the damn actor doesn't improvise, then the director might. So I'm there to make sure they don't do that."
Van még 2 kérdésre időnk. Ki lesz az? Akkor 4.
Az írás folyamat az egy folyamatos ilyen mérlegelés. Látva ez végülis ezt a 80-as, 90-es évek Amerikáját, ez egy ilyen, számomra egy túlfűtött világ. És hogy azt szeretném megkérdezni, hogy a mérlegelés, tehát hogy a vonalon maradni, hogy nem túl sok, nem túl kevés, pont jó, azt a technikát, azt hogy fejlesztetted ki, vagy ez csak úgy ott van és jön. Don't know if I have to say in English.
Did I understand it correctly? Is he asking about the budget?
Balance if it's too much or too less.
The story, balance of the story.
How do you balance the story out? Because writing process itself is balancing, I guess.
I don't understand the term balancing. What do you mean?
Balancing means that, for me, that is like sometimes sometimes you write about something that you feel it's unreal or too much or too...
You mean crossing a certain line in terms of reality?
Yeah.
It varies, it depends on the material, it's a question of tone, I think, more than anything else, because the danger is that tonally you can lose your tone if you step over the line. The best answer, the most truthful answer I could give you is that that's in my gut, and I just feel it when it goes too far, and then it comes back. It's not something that I don't sit down and say, okay, I'm going to worry about the balance today, right? I mean, I feel it if it goes too far, and I just keep it in check that way.
Emotionally, it's very like a roller coaster for me, the film. And as a writer, is it hard to leap forward after you wrote it? In the 13 days, was it really intensive and to just, okay, you are done with the script and okay, let's just do the next one? Or how it goes emotionally for you as a writer?
I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, how attached do you get to these scripts as you write them or after you finish them? You get an emotional attachment. And
Sure.
how long before you can start the next one?
Very much. It depends. It depends on how much work there is to do on the one you've just finished. If it's racing ahead into production, and if they've done casting and all of that, then you're involved in it that way, unless you pissed everybody off and they want you to go away, and when that happens, that hurts too. But if you write it and nothing happens, and this is my thing, there are a lot of successful screenwriters who literally go from one studio to the other, pitching 3 different stories a day, and some make that work for themselves. I can't do that. I have to focus on one, and then that sort of eats my life up until I'm done with it, and then it depends on whether I have an idea for another one, or whether I just have to cool out. And I have to do some reading, or movie watching, or being with my family, just to get away from it. So each one varies, and for me, I can't just bounce, to the next one from today until the next day and do the next one. I like to think that I put my heart and soul and my guts into my stuff. But there are a lot of people who don't work that way.
Utolsó kérdés.
Catherine a saját könyveírásához a környezetéből lopott karaktereket és történéseket mennyire igaz ez a metódus önre, hogy ön mennyire szokott a környezetéből így ötleteket meríteni a filmíráshoz?
Can you repeat that?
Catherine a film során a saját könyvírásához a környezetéből merített ötleteket, lopott karaktereket, ugye a rendőr karakterét, ezt írja bele a könyvébe, és az a kérdés, hogy ön mennyire követi ezt a metódust, hogy mennyire vesz a saját életéből vagy környezetéből karaktereket a filmíráshoz.
Your question, as I gather, is how much comes out of my personal life in terms of the screenplays, and where do I get the ideas to do this?
Yes.
Okay. Much of it does come out of my personal life. I'll give you some examples. Betrayed, which was about neo-Nazis in America, came out of, I went to all of Steve's Little League baseball games, and we lived in Marin County, which is a prosperous, liberal area north of San Francisco. And I suddenly started noticing all these anti-Semitic scrawlings on the walls around the baseball park, on the bleachers, you know, really scurrilous anti-Jewish things. And this was happening in a liberal community, right? At the same time, I started reading about various neo-Nazi jamborees that was being held on the West Coast. And there was a Brinks truck robbery at the same time. So this whole thing came together from seeing these things on the bleachers. And I came up with the notion of doing a piece on this. I did a script called Checking Out with Jeff Daniels, and it was about a guy who was in his 40s who suddenly has a midlife crisis, and he thinks he's going to die. His friends around him are dying, you know, and he's having an affair at the same time. So he gets so paranoid that he puts a blood pressure thing on his arm as he goes in and meets his mistress in bed. It turned out that, you know, it was a very dark comedy, and I'm not saying it came from the fact that I had a mistress or that I was meeting her, but there were a lot of friends who were going through midlife crises around me. Music Box came from my reading and my knowledge and my research about Hungary after the Second World War. And the notion that a guy like that he comes to the United States and has children who succeed in American society who wind up defending him, you know, against those kinds of charges. Showgirls was simply an idea to do a Vegas musical, but I did a lot of personal research in Vegas, sometimes in Andy's company, you know, with Verhoeven, who also did a lot of research. But the moment I'll never forget is we were going up the stairs like at 3 in the morning from one strip club to another. And I'm at the top of the stairs hurrying, and then it's Verhoeven, and then it's Andy. And Andy suddenly says to me, "Boy, you are really relentless about this, aren't you?" So it comes from, somebody once said that the writer's responsibility in terms of what he writes is to pick up things from the air, that there are ideas everywhere in the air, and that you have to just become sensitive to that. And I would say that most of them have come from there. Fist came from my very first one. I lived in a part of Cleveland where I was surrounded by old Union men who'd been in the Union conflicts in the 30s. And when United Artists asked me if I had an idea to do a script, I thought about the stories these guys had told me about how they were busted by the government in the 30s and by the banks. And that's where the story spun from. So it usually comes from that, you know.
Ez nagyjából a következő session első kérdésére volt a válasz, úgyhogy szerintem itt rekesszük be ezt az első beszélgetést. Úgy tudom, 15 perc múlva folytatjuk, jól? Ebédszünet, és senki ne feledje szavát, ezeket a kérdéseket még lesz alkalma feltenni mindenkinek. Köszönjük szépen.
Can I add one thing to that last question? Let me add one thing.
Egy pillanat.
One more thing.
Joe valamit
Yes,
hozzá
one
akar
more
adni.
thing. The question about where do you get the ideas and how much is your personal life? And in the middle of my war with the agent Mike Ovis that somebody asked me about, I wrote this really twisted script about the President of the United States who has a sexual relationship with a cow. And somebody said to me, where did you get this idea from? And I said, Michael Ovitz. That's right. Thank you very much, Anthony.